Hi, I'm Tova.
I'm Yishai.
Yishai and I are really happy to be taking part in this small aspect of this summer's indoor world. Yishai and I were the Rosh Beit Midrash at Camp Stone 2 summers ago in 2018. We, before that, were part of Hadracha and Sevet, and I was a Chanicha at Camp Stone for multiple years back in the day. And today we wanted to come to you guys talking about this week's Parshat Pinchas.
At the end of Parshat Pinchas, we have the story of Benot Tzelophchad. So we have this family of just daughters who approach Moshe and complain that they won't be able to receive an inheritance in the land because their father died with no sons. Moshe doesn't know what to tell them, so he turns to God, and God says they have a point. This should be the halacha from here on out. If a man dies and has no sons, his inheritance should go to his daughters. If he has no daughters, it should go to his brothers. If he has no brothers, it should go to his uncles. And if he has no uncles, then it should go to She'ero, which presumably means his wife.
What's so striking about this story is the fact that how personal it must be for Moshe. He, at the end of the day, is just told that he won't be entering Eretz Yisrael and he won't be having a nachala, and he has to now go on and tell Bnei Yisrael about this new mitzvah. He is left with no inheritance. His family and his children are estranged from him. His siblings have all passed away. He has no uncles. And still, he has to tell Bnei Yisrael that this is the new policy that is clearly excluding him and is coming at his expense. So our question is, how can this mitzvah, which is on surface level, seems really inclusive and helping people in need, actually be presented by Moshe when it's coming at his expense?
So it might be helpful to take a bit of a closer look at this episode because at its most basic level, it seems to mirror something that we've already read. We have a story here of a bunch of unprotected, disenfranchised women who are seeking help, and Moshe comes in to their assistance. It sounds very familiar to Moshe fleeing Egypt, and he winds up in Midian, and he encounters Yitro's 7 daughters who are being harassed by a bunch of shepherds, and Moshe comes in and saves them and eventually marries Tzipporah, one of the daughters. During this moment of these women being stripped of their dignity and their rights and their possessions, Moshe comes along and is able to grant those things back to them. Moshe has this knack for intervening when people need it the most. We know one of our first encounters with Moshe is when he prevents 2 Jews from fighting with each other and when he kills the Mitzri who was beating the Jew. Moshe has always been the one to stand up for the needy and the downtrodden and the dispossessed. And that's always what's cut him out to be a leader from the very outset. So it's not totally inappropriate to say that this is the perfect moment for Moshe to actually part from the people and to pass away, is for him to grant this halacha to Benot Tzelophchad and come full circle from when he first stood up for Benot Yitro.
Nevertheless, there still seems to be some sort of teasing of Moshe. Moshe has just been told in the pasuk that we see, "Ale el har ha'avarim hazeh v'ra'eh et ha'aretz asher natati lebnei Yisrael." I chose not to give it to Moshe, but rather to Bnei Yisrael. We have to even so, I think that the understanding that Yishai and I are presenting, that the juxtaposition of this pasuk with Benot Tzelophchad is actually a really fitting way for Moshe to finally leave Bnei Yisrael to be the final mitzvah that he gives to them. Moshe's inheritance in the people is not through his own family and his own children. Rather, even if it sounds cliche, his inheritance and his people and his future are Bnei Yisrael as a whole. And in that sense, the fact that Benot Tzelophchad is his ending note is incredibly fitting. He, again, is rooting himself through the people even more in the land of Israel. His continuity is being further confirmed and given longevity through the mitzvah of Benot Tzelophchad, and is a great way for Moshe to emphasize that his legacy in the nation and in the land of Israel is through the nation, even if he has no children himself.
In Camp Stone, we have this central value of Rosh Gadol, which pretty much means when somebody asks you to do something, you do more. And when somebody asks you to not do anything, when nobody asks you to do anything, then you still do something. You still go out of your way. When Moshe stood up for the Jews being beaten by the Mitzrayim, and when he stood up for Benot Midian, and when he turned to God with Benot Tzelophchad's heart-wrenching plea, he went out of his way to care for those who never asked him, and he went out of his way to do something that was not necessarily expected of him. And that message, I think, is critical for us to take with us and to recognize that even when we are dealing with our own personal struggles and our own personal challenges, we have to recognize that we are part of a community and we can have an impact on our community, and each and every single one of us can make a difference if we'll only stand up.